My darling, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time, and time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love. God speed your love to me. Lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the sea. The open arms of the sea, yeah. Lonely riverside, wait for me, wait for me. I'll be coming home, wait for me. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time, and time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much.
Welcome to the celebration of life for Franklin John Eaton, known to us as Frank Eaton. I am Ed Feber, a friend of the family for many, many years, and it is my great honor and privilege to help lead this celebration of life for Frank. First of all, my condolences to Judy, Stacy, Shannon, Chad, Marlis, their spouses, and their children. Life is not to be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving there safely in an attractive and well-preserved body, but rather to drift in sideways on a sled, or skid to a halt in a truck while checking for the big one, or scouting for cattle in the pastures. Body thoroughly used up, totally wore out, and screaming into the wind, whoa-ho, what a ride. And Frank certainly lived his life. At this point, I would like to invite Cassie Klovansky to come forward and share a reading with you.
I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following dates with tears, but he said what matters most was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what that little dash is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters most is we live in love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the little things they say about how you spent your dash?
Thank you, Cassie. Frank certainly filled his dash. I will now ask Frankie Lawson and Kayla Eaton to come forward and share some memories and stories about their grandfather.
For those, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Frankie. Long for Frank. I was lucky enough to be named after my grandpa, so I'd like to think I was born into being his favorite. Sharing his name comes with some pretty big shoes to fill, but I promise, Grandpa, I'll do my best to continue being a good namesake. When we think of Grandpa, we think of all the things that made him who he was. He was a lifelong cattleman who loved buying and raising and talking cattle, a hunter and fisherman, a gardener who could grow just about anything, and someone who was always going to tell you exactly how it was. Some of our favorite memories are the little ones. A bag of cheesies at the auction mart, Grandpa making sure we didn't forget the Smarties before we left, afternoons spent playing canasta around the table and learning that apparently it's okay to swear as long as you were fishing with Grandpa. Food was another thing Grandpa was known for, whether it was his love for dill pickle dip, watching him pile a mountain of sauerkraut onto his burger at Fuddruckers, convincing us to try liver and onions or even salted cow tongue, or hearing him ask, "Are you thinking of having some tea?" the moment he heard someone in the kitchen. Even if you weren't, he wanted a cup too, and it was always red rose. Grandpa took so much pride in his yard, his garden, and his flowers, and he loved showing us everything that he was growing. If he asked you to come pull just a couple weeds, you quickly learned that usually meant helping him finish whatever yard work he's been waiting to do. At the time, it felt like work, but now those afternoons are some of the memories we'll always treasure. A visit with Grandpa at the home was never a quick one. He knew everyone, wanted to introduce us to everyone, and you could always tell just how proud he was to show us off. Grandpa also had a sense of humor that was entirely his own. It might not have been funny to everyone, but seeing how hard Grandpa laughed at his own jokes always made us laugh too. He was especially good at trying to get Grandma to say, "Frank, you pig," usually on a long car ride and usually followed by someone cracking a window. Looking back, it's those ordinary moments we'll miss the most. They didn't seem extraordinary at the time, but they're the memories we'll carry with us for the rest of our lives.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kayla. I'm Shannon's son, and I was lucky enough to call Frank my grandpa. And for anyone else that may not know me, I'm probably that blonde-headed guy from Grandpa's Facebook post. One of the things Grandpa and I shared was a love of cattle. Some of my favorite memories with him happen at cattle shows. One memory that always makes me smile is after a steer show at the Lloyd Fair. Everyone was gathering around for the champion photo, and before long, there was Grandpa making his way across the ring so he could be in the winning picture too. He wasn't looking for attention, he just wanted to celebrate the moment with the people he loved. This past Friday, I had the honor of winning at the Calgary Stampede. It was one of the biggest moments of my life, but I also felt like someone was missing. I know exactly where Grandpa would have been, standing ringside with the biggest smile on his face, proud as ever. Even though he couldn't be there beside me, I'd like to think he still found a way to make it into that winning picture. On behalf of all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, Grandpa, thank you for the love you gave us, the lessons you taught us, and the countless memories you've left us with. Thank you for showing us the value of hard work, family, and taking pride in the moments that mattered most. We'll miss your stories, your honesty, your sense of humor, and all the little traditions that made you who you were. We'll carry those memories with us, share them with the generations to come after us, and make sure your legacy lives on. We love you, Grandpa. We'll miss you every day.
I know your life on earth was troubled, and only you could know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You were no stranger to the rain. Oh, rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shouting, love for the Father and the Son. Oh, how we cried the day you left us. We gathered round your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. Go rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shouting, love for the Father the sun.
Thank you, Lisa. What a beautiful voice. As Frank once said, it's a good thing for Chad that he found Lisa when he did, because with her voice, she could have gone to Nashville or Hollywood. Now we'll have the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I would like to invite Robin Gilroy to come forward and share some thoughts and words with us at this time.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Robin Gilroy, and I'm from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Webster's Dictionary describes a cattleman as follows: a cowboy, a cowhand, a herdsman, a drover, a rancher, and a stockman. Frank Eaton was all of the above and more. If I didn't know any better, I would guess that Frank Eaton was born with a cattle cane in his hand and a ball cap on his head, slightly twisted. Frank was a cattle buyer extraordinaire. He was a working fool. He was honest. He was smart with numbers. He was fun-loving. And his cattle judgment skills were second to none. In most outfits, having all these qualities, it would require 2 or 3 people. Frank was the real deal, all rolled up into one. Frank started in the cattle business early in life. At the tender age of 14, Frank was working with his father, Jack Eaton, gathering cattle from farmers and ranches at the Eaton farm. Then, when they got them gathered, they hauled them into Wilmar and loaded them on the train for their journey to the Winnipeg stockyards. In the 1980s, Frank purchased shares in 3 different auction markets in southeastern Saskatchewan: Alameda, Estevan, and Arcola. And in 1994, Frank bought all the remaining shares of the Arcola auction. Frank also had a huge Ontario business. Starting in 1970 and lasting for 4 decades, he became a major feeder cattle supplier to Eastern Canadian cattle operations. His order book included the likes of Jack Morsey, Bruce McCall, Hans Schleichner, and Wally Schaus. These men were all titans of the Ontario cattle business. Over the past 40 years, I competed with Frank and many other cattle dealers for thousands of cattle. And I can say honestly that without any reservation, Frank was pleasure to watch. There are many cattle buyers who know the difference between a good calf and an average calf, but not many who know the real good ones from the good ones. Frank Eaton was that man, and that's what made him such a tough competitor. Frank was always interested in the next generation of cattlemen, and besides being a wonderful mentor to Chad and Shannon, he also took interest in others who are successful in today's cattle industry. In all the years I knew Frank, I never saw him lose his cool or even get very angry. Maybe I didn't see him enough, I don't know. As one of my friends put it, he was a pleasure to be around. Some have said that Frank Eaton was an unsung hero, and I agree. But he was much more than that. And that was evident on his 80th birthday in this building here just a few months ago. The group picture was a framework for the who's who in the cattle marketing business in Canada. Frank Eaton was and is a Canadian cattle industry legend. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for those words, Robin Gilroy. If I remember correctly, the sale barn became almost a second home to Frank during the busy sales season, and we didn't see much of him on the home farm at times, but we got by. I will ask Shannon Eaton now to please come forward and give the eulogy to Frank.
Thanks, Ed. Franklin John Eaton was born November 2nd, 1945, to Jack and Mildred Eaton. He was the sixth born and the only son. He was born and raised on the northeast of 12652, west of Wilmer, Saskatchewan. He always had a keen interest in the livestock industry, raising hogs, sheep, and cattle in his early years. Dad attended school in Wilmar until he finished grade 10 and the school closed. Instead of starting grade 11 in Lampman, he decided his school career was finished. From what I understand, Dad was a wild child through his teens and early 20s. And as we all know, through the 1960s, there were a lot of big-time muscle cars, and Dad definitely had his share. He had a 1964 Galaxy 500 two-door. He had a 1966 Mercury Park Lane hardtop that was yellow and black. And I'm going to tell you, if I had $5 for every compliment I had on that son of a bitch, I'd be retired. He had a 1967 Chevy Impala SS convertible, yellow and white with a 427 four-speed factory. He had a 1969 Chevelle SS, blue and white, 396 four-speed factory. And he managed to wreck them all. Then he got married and he switched to Buicks and Blazers. He loved cars. He always talked about the fastest he ever went with the cops in hot pursuit. He was with Dwayne Colopy in a 1969 RT Charger from Oxbow to Alameda. And when we crested the hill of that thing, we were doing 130 miles an hour. He said the cop was going up and down the streets in Alameda looking for them. They were parked in a garage drinking beer. Dad always talked fondly about his friend group growing up. His Wilmar group, consisting of the Arndt boys, Kelvin Lidke, Kenny Woods, his Brownridge cousins, and the Wheeler family. Then his Wordsworth buddies, Terry Kramer and Ken Arabia, his Alameda buddies, Gary Brooks and Reed Gibson, to name a few. After the 1960s, his life changed forever as he started a family. He married Judy Hislop on May 8th, 1971, and they lived in a trailer in the home farm. On November 16th, 1971, his firstborn arrived, Stacy Lee, and we all know she was and still is his favorite till the end. I was born November 25th, 1972. In the summer of 1974, Dad and Mom bought the neighbor farm from Harry and Lois Hilling. And we moved to that farm. On November 10th, 1975, Chadwick Don came along into the world. And then on December 17th, our family was complete with Marlis Louise. We continued to live at the Hilling farm until the summer of 1980, when we moved back to the home farm where Dad was raised, in the house that he was born in. And that house still stands there today. As we were raised, Dad was strict but fair. Every morning the wake-up call come from Carol Baker or Crystal Gale playing on the record player. If we didn't get up, he'd just yell at us and say, well, you can just lay there and rot. Dad tried his best to instill work ethic into all of us. We fed 4-H calves, we fed pigs, and all had to work at the stockyards. As we grew up, Dad loved to watch us play hockey and baseball. He was always a huge fan and my biggest critic when I played hockey and baseball. Dad's biggest love, other than his family, was hunting and fishing. He was very competitive in it, and no matter what he was doing, he was very instrumental in the Arcola Big Buck competition that still goes today, as he hosted it for many years at the stockyards. He was fortunate to win that competition once, and he was so proud of Chad and I when we both accomplished the same feat. He also loved hunting coyotes. In the early years, with Donald Hirsch and Murray Wheeler, and later on, 2 of his best buddies, Melvin and Rodney Greening. But his favorite thing to do in life was definitely fishing. Early on, he had trips to Jan Lake. Then, many trips on a fly-in fishing deal to Pardo Lake with David James. And as the year went on, they made that their trip and took all of their friends along. But I'd have to say, his favorite place on earth was Namibin Lake. He spent many memorable trips there with the Greenings, the Flecks, Norman Paul, and so many stories with his long lifetime fishing buddy, Ronnie Valentine. They loved catching Lakers right across there off that point by the flat rock. That's where Ronnie and I were just killing them. Dad had his own thesaurus. He had his own meanings of words. A doily, that's a napkin. My blade, that's your shoulder. My shaft's hurt, that's his legs. Salve, that's butter. What do you call him over there at Carnduff? You know, what do you call him? Yeah. We were supposed to know who that was, the guy that was on his mind. His machine, that was a skidoo. Kimona, that's a coat. Mauser, That's his rifle. Bubbles, that was the wild card when you were playing rummy. That was when he didn't like something. And I think the shares in Watkins just went down. As Watkins Sav, that was a cure-all. It didn't matter whether you had a sunburn, whether you had anything on your lips, whether your skin was dry, you had sore feet, or as he would say, it'll even cure a sore ass. As you've heard already in some of the stories today about Dad, he truly loved the cattle business. From the days of the stockyards in Arcola, Alameda, and Estevan, to buying in Saskatoon and later in Alberta, he truly loved and cared for each and every customer and competitor. He truly loved the business. Now, the auctioneers, that was another story. He was very tough on auctioneers. It didn't matter how close you were to the end, he was trying to give a quarter. Didn't matter whether you were $30 a 100, he was still trying to give a quarter. And to make every group right, we had to have one out. Dad took so much pride in his community. This very hall that we are in today was an idea of his and Doug Brownridge, and within 2 years after the idea came forward, this building was standing. And in December of 1995, the first event that was ever hosted in here was Chad and Lisa's wedding. Dad was so proud of that. He started the Arcola Steer and Heifer Show along with his good friend Don Lees back in 1982. It faded for several years, but when Mom and Dad moved back here, the show was resurrected, as it's still going today. And just 3 short weeks ago, he was so proud that he was able to come from the home on his scooter and get in the picture of the reserve champion steer. It meant the world to him. Dad's pride and joy were definitely his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Each and every one of them had their own unique connection with him, and he welcomed a visit or a phone call from them all. Dad could always put on a gruff look, but it really was just a look. He genuinely loved people. He loved his friends unconditionally, and most of all, he loved his family, and he loved all of the nurses and the staff at the Moose Mountain Lodge. Everybody knew he was, whether it was the president or the prime minister or what it was, everything had to revolve around him. He cared for each and every one of us with all of his heart. We never wanted anything, or he never wanted anything but the best. He really did care as his health was deteriorating. He and I had a chat one-on-one in the hospital, and he wanted me to promise that when I did this speech that he asked me to do, that I would tell all of his friends and all of his family how much he really cared and how much he loved them all. Dad, the last truck is loaded. And yes, they're delivered. They're invoiced with the commission on. And yes, they like the cattle. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. At this time, I would invite Savannah Hodgkinson. Would you please come forward for a reading?
He'd spot a good yearling from miles down the track and bid with a wink or a scratch of his back. He knew every trick that a seller could try and exactly how much a good heifer should buy. He'd argue on pricing from morning till night to prove that his math and margins were right. They're prime quality cattle, the finest around. He'd smile as he shaved off a dime by the pound. He loved the loud rattle of ringside debate, the shout of the auctioneer, and the slam of a gate. He'd eye up the buyers and size up the crowd with a laugh that was hearty and wonderfully loud. He'd talk about weather and pasture and feed and always find humor in every stampede. Now the sorting is finished and the paperwork's done. He's bought his last herd at the set of the sun. The great auctioneer called his name from the stand to clear out his trailer and settle the land. The commission is paid and the ledger is clear. He's headed up home to the best time of year. Up there in the pastures where clovers grow high, he's checking the weight of the clouds in the sky. He's telling the angel, those wings are okay, but I'll give you top dollar for that tan-colored Charlet.
How very fitting, Savannah. Thank you. Frank's many talents have been passed on to his children and grandchildren. What a legacy. Now, a few announcements before recessional. Thank you to Hall's Funeral Home for all their assistance during this difficult time. Thank you to Moose Mountain Lodge for their care of Frank in his time of need. Thank you to Lisa Eaton, whose beautiful voice has helped ease the pain in our hearts. And thank you to all who came to this celebration of life for Frank. Now, as the family takes their leave for interment at the cemetery, they would like you to know that you're welcome to come and share in the committal service, or if you wish, you may remain here and join them for a period of fellowship and beef on a bun when they return.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I've planned each charted course, each careful